Hello, welcome to SLS. Today we'll be speaking to Bukola Ifemade, who is the woman behind the Insurance Sector Strengthening Program, a program that we believe would not just strengthen the insurance sector, but will create the right systems for women, young people, MSMEs, that will create social welfare and get to understand insurance better. Thank you for watching, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Hello, good morning, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate all the good work you're doing. Yes, I'm Bukola Ifemade, with 2 degrees natural science, and then this is now like a lot to say about myself, preaching the gospel according to insurance. I think insurance, interestingly, I came into it by happenstance, like I used to say. I was in maths, and then I got into actuarial science and ended up having my 2 degrees in actuarial science. And today, how has that shaped what I'm doing? Naturally, my inclination is always wanting to help. I just love to help. In fact, that is what revitalizes me, how to make a difference. And then from studying maths and then changing to actuarial sciences, I love figures, but then how can these figures become real life thing on every day-to-day living? And that got me into actuarial science. And then I found myself in insurance. And for me, it's not about insurance as people just talk about that buzzword, but it's actually about social welfare. It's about community. It's about having healthy families, healthy businesses, and that is actually what drives a nation. So that is my little foray into the insurance space. To be honest, I won't say it's a particular moment. I would say it's a chain of events over the years. First of all, whatever one is doing, it has to start from inside. Because for every day, you must always know your why, what motivates you, what makes you want to stay resilient. So talking about the reform aspect, first of all, people used to call me weird or queer, whatever it is. Take, for example, before I got into IGI, I had the opportunity to go to Chevron. And I look at what they were doing, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to be here. I'm not going to make an impact. I am a restless person, very, very restless. I have to be doing something that makes a difference. So I left Chevron to go to an IGI that was just starting. I got into IGI, I saw just sitting at the reception and watching everybody change my perspective, and I said, this is where I like to be. And that is how my journey into insurance started. And IGI was a game changer because I never thought I'll have anything to do with insurance until I got into IGI and I saw a total paradigm shift of the perception I used to have about insurance. Maybe because the person that started IGI was not your traditional insurance person, probably, I don't know. And that for my 10 years there, I saw insurance as being an impactful on the social, economic life of a nation. That's the truth. And then bringing innovation, because it's not just to talk about making an impact, but through innovation. And then I got into INSEA, formerly known as ADIC, African Development Insurance Company. And I got in there, and it's about people. Because coming from an IGI where technology was already, the standard, and I got into an ADIC of then, and there was no technology in place. But I saw the oneness of people and the unity and the eagerness to make things thrive. And even though it was a lot of a particular ethnic Igbos were likely dominated by them, but we were all one. And I was able to see power of teamwork at ADIC. And then I got into AXA Mansard, formerly known as Guaranteed Trust Assurance. And then that was where the game changed. It took another notch for me. Because by that time, I saw how telco changed the landscape from rural to urban. I saw how there was just this paradigm change across the nation. Why can't insurance be like this? Where people that are in the villages can enjoy insurance as a lifestyle, and the people that are in the urban center also can see insurance as same. And since then, that restlessness just got into me. So it's actually a combination of a lot of things through the career over the decades that I realized I know there has to be a reform. And that is what got me to eventually, into ISSP initiative. In fact, what you've just spoken to is very sad, but it's also what led to starting the insurance sector's strengthening program, ISSP. Because you see a lot of young people, they want to travel abroad. Majorly for what reason? Just because of the basic things of life. And you'll now be wondering, what has insurance got to do with that? And insurance has got to do with everything about that. Let's start with the regulators. When we're talking with the regulators, and I said, which is one major thing, most of the things that we want to do on this ISSP. Where you have regulators, because regulators are the one that will advise the government into putting policies in place that will affect the people. So to bring about a paradigm shift in the mindset of regulators to say we are regulating, which is just about whipping everybody to line. To say, why not make insurance impactful from business perspective, business development perspective? Where you are putting those guidelines in place, also look at the impact it's actually having on the people. And by the time the regulators are doing that, regulators are the voice of the government. Government is able to then put together policies. Government is actually trying because, for example, efforts have been on, not that they have not been doing anything, a lot of efforts have been on, and that's what brought about the NIRA Act 2025, which is a new Nigeria Insurance Act that came out to 2025, and is already addressing these things, but there's still a lot of work to be done. Because it's not just for NIRA to be out there, but about the implementation, about the actualization, about actually how it's directly affecting the people. It's not just to force people to say, you must do this, you must do that. It's for them to actually see the value and be willing to do that. And for the people themselves, when you talk about the teamwork, because when people also see how it's going to affect them, their families, their welfare, their businesses, they will be more than happy to embrace it, because people are always ready to invest a lot of money into what they believe is actually making a difference in their lives. So for me, it's about the regulator already improving on what is already being done by incorporating insurance into our everyday guidelines, as well as the people who are actually the consumers seeing the value adding in it. And then we're going to have a better nation, a better economy, a better Nigeria, that all of us will be very comfortable to be in our own space and have a good life. Whatever good life means to you, you have a good life. It's actually a combination of the three. It's a combination of all the three that you mentioned, because national infrastructure with a big name, but then there also has to be a system and structure to make things work. Because where there is no system and structure, everything will just be doing everything. Everybody will just be doing everything as it is, and then will not have tangible. It won't make tangible difference, or will have tangible achievement. So where you talk about the national infrastructure, NICOM is actually doing a lot in that space, just like you have the PENCOM and all the other things that government has put in place, just to make sure that there is a system that will become an auto-run and will be well accepted, you know what I'm saying? And then people can easily have easy access to social welfare. And that's why you talk about the social impact as well, because it's going to have social impact on families, on businesses, on the nations, for the economy to thrive. Because take, for example, you talk about, even though it's almost becoming a buzzword, but that is the truth. When you talk about the ESG, this is rainy season. I've seen from petty traders to big corporates being affected when there is flood issue. That is a climate issue. And yet, that is part of the things that government has put in place under the NERA, to say that public buildings, and all these other things, they must have insurance in them. Where you have any building that has public access to it must have insurance, because it's affecting businesses. People are losing their homes. The farmers are crying because they're losing their crops, and then there's food shortage. But when these things are in place that government is already doing, it helps. Now, when you talk about even the everyday welfare thing, when you talk about the health, when you talk about the family, when you talk about the children education, all those things, they affect a lot of things. When people hear insurance, all they think about is, they think it's only when there's a tragedy. It's not about tragedy. It's actually about thriving. It's actually being able to see where the social impact will be so much that it becomes a thing of pedigree. That, just like when GSM happened, and everybody's always like, what is your GSM number? Or the days of not. And that's what we're trying to get ISSP to also achieve. To say it's like you don't have a policy in place. It's like you are not yet happening at all. You know what I'm saying? It's like, are you so backward? Because like now, you go to the most rural of the villages, everybody have a GSM. It doesn't have to be a smart. Everybody knows about WhatsApp. How much more? And that is what we want to use ISSP to achieve. So for us, it's about the advocacy. It's about, first of all, building capacity, because people cannot give what they don't have. So we want to be able to see how the regulators and the various supervisory bodies, as well as the operators, were able to help build capacity for them to be able to discharge what they are promised, the service they are promised they're going to discharge in an effective way, where the consumers are also protected, because insurance is a business of trust, where the consumers are also well protected, so that at any point in time, because what is the difference between us and the developed countries is because people have access to the most basic thing, and they are being touched at every point in time, at every stage of life. And that is what we are also hoping that ISSP will be able to achieve: the training, the consumer protection, the infrastructure that has to be put in place, and eventually the consumer themselves having a better life. First of all, in implementing this program, it actually goes beyond just Nigeria, because we are also making sure there is a proper knowledge. We developed economy where insurance is already thriving, and we already have partners in those countries who are working with us on this. And for the operators, part of what we're also focusing on is where the operators themselves can actually see how they are collaborators in this ecosystem, rather than seeing themselves as competitors. Because it's also one of the things that have kind of caused stagnancy in the growth of that sector. So where the various players, from the regulators to the other players, they see how they can be in synergy. And that is why ISSP is focusing on this training aspect for the professionals, as well as also embark on advocacy and campaign, where the people on the streets can actually ask all the questions and get all the inquiries answered, and also be given access to information and who and where. But beyond that, also we are looking at MSMEs, because we know that over 50% of the nation's income is actually coming from the MSMEs, and they are in thousands. How do we then also help them to be able to make sure that their businesses are thriving? When all those things are done, guess what it's going to address? It's going to address the insecurity issue. You know how they say the hungry man is an angry man? When people are not hungry, when they have access to the most basic things, food, clothing, shelter, without necessarily having to wait for handouts from government, you will see that there will be a lot of stability and less insecurity issues. where people are enlightened, and more people, we have more children, more people going through school, where there is education, good education in every ramification, you will also see that there will be less insecurity and everybody will be happy. If Nigerians can be called happy people, even in the midst of all of these issues we have, how much more? And all these issues are what insurances addresses. So at the end of it all, we are looking at the reform that will bring about policy changes, because in developed countries, it is the norm. It's not even unheard of. Not that there's still no slip-ups, that some people will still not do their insurances where they're required to do it, but it is compulsory. You must have it, otherwise they treat it as a criminal offense. And everybody, is going to be a win-win, both for the government and for the people. So we just want to make sure that at the end of it all, through the ISSP project over the next 5 years, insurance will have become, a welfare tool. It will have become a lifestyle, actually, I would say a lifestyle thing for everyone, and we will all be better for it. So, and we will be making sure that we're doing it's going to be a dedicated vehicle. It is a dedicated vehicle to help the government, to help the supervisors, and as well as the businesses, so that we will have a stronger Nigeria economy ultimately. Because at the end of the day, when you talk about the financial tools, I say insurance is the most effective financial tool and is the cheapest to get, and yet is the one that gives you the best comfort at all times through every season of life. When families is happy, when business is stable, the economy thrives, and that it can only be done through our communal effort, which is what insurance is. And I want to say thank you to Sustainable Stories Africa for the good job you're doing, because this is about building Africa. This is about building Nigeria. This is about building. And when we're building Africa, we're building ourselves through every way possible. Nobody's coming to do it for us. We have to do it for ourselves. So thank you for being intentional in putting these stories out and making sure that people pay attention to how we can collectively build Africa. So good job.
Hi, welcome once again. I have just spoken to Bukola Ifemade, the woman behind Insurance Sector Strengthening Program. She is one who has explained to us what the program is all about, how it would ensure that more people come into the insurance scheme, not just because you need to get an insurance, because it creates social welfare, it creates a backup for families, women, young people, MSMEs, and at the end of the day, you'll be able to get more insight into her journey through the insurance sector. Thank you for watching, and do remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel.